Ryan stares at the painting for a long time, and then one thought hits him. This painting is over 51,000 years old. That is not a typo. Not 51 years, not 510 years, 51,000 years before Egypt, before the wheel, before language as we know it. Someone crawled deep into a limestone cave on an island in Indonesia in complete darkness and painted this. And Ryan can't stop asking the same question. Why? Think about what it took to make that painting. There were no art stores, no brushes you could buy, no paint, no light, no road to the cave. No reason, as far as survival goes, to be in there at all. And yet someone planned it, gathered materials, walked deep into the earth, made something. And what makes it stranger, this isn't a one-off. This isn't one eccentric prehistoric genius who had too much free time. Archaeologists have found cave paintings on every inhabited continent on Earth. Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, the Americas, thousands of sites, hundreds of thousands of images, people who had zero contact with each other, separated by oceans and continents and tens of thousands of years, and they all did the same thing. They went into the dark. And they painted. That's not a coincidence. That's something coded into us. But here's what nobody tells you, and this is the part that genuinely stopped scientists cold. Let's start with the part everyone skips. How did they even see in there? Most of these paintings weren't made at cave entrances. They were made deep inside, in narrow passageways, in chambers hundreds of meters underground, in total absolute blackness. So, scientists did something remarkable. They went back into the caves and rebuilt the ancient lighting systems from scratch. Torches made from juniper branches, birch bark, pine resin, and deer bone marrow. Stone lamps filled with animal fat. Small fireplaces built into wall recesses. Here's what they found, and keep this in mind, because it changes everything. The torches burned for an average of 41 minutes. They threw light about 6 meters in every direction, enough to move through a cave, to explore, to find a wall. But for the actual painting, they switched to stone lamps. Small, flat rocks with a hollow scraped out, filled with animal fat, with a plant fiber wick. These burned quietly for over an hour, steadier and almost smokeless. The paint itself was just as ingenious. They ground up natural minerals, ochre for reds and yellows, manganese dioxide for black, charcoal for outlines, and mixed them with binders they had available. Animal fat, bone marrow, sometimes blood, sometimes urine. They turned rock dust into paint that has lasted 50,000 years. They applied it with their fingers with brushes made from animal hair or chewed sticks. They blew it through hollow bird bones like prehistoric spray cans to create soft gradients and stenciled handprints. Then, here's the detail that made researchers stop completely. When they lit fireplaces on the cave ledges above the paintings, not torches on the floor, but fires above, the paintings didn't just appear. They moved. The flickering, dancing flame light hit the carefully carved lines and the layered pigment and made bison appear to charge. Made horses look like they were running. The cave walls became something almost like a cinema screen. April Noel, an archaeologist at the University of Victoria, described it as an ancient version of cinema. The flickering light, the dancing shadows, the warm glow from fire creating a sense of theater. These people weren't just making pictures, they were creating an experience. But here's what that still doesn't answer. Why animals? Why not people? Why not landscapes? Why not the rivers they drank from or the shelters they slept in? Why always, almost exclusively animals? Because that's the other thing that wrecked scientists' simple explanation. The animals painted most frequently in these caves, mammoths, bison, aurochs, horses, were often not the animals they were actually eating. Archaeologists can tell what people ate from the bones left at their living sites, and the menu and the art don't match. So the painting as hunting guide theory, it's partial at best. This is where it gets strange. A 2018 study from MIT, published in Frontiers in Psychology, found that prehistoric cave paintings were placed disproportionately in acoustic hotspots inside caves, spots where sound echoes powerfully, where a voice, a chant, a drum beat would bounce off the walls and fill the whole chamber. The researchers proposed that ancient humans were converting sound into image, that the act of making art and the act of making music and language were all happening together in the same place, at the same time, as part of the same thing. The cave wasn't a canvas. It was a meeting room, a ritual space, a theater, a temple. And the paintings weren't decoration. They were communication directed at the living. At the dead, at spirits they believed lived inside the rock itself. Some theories suggest prehistoric shamans entered the cave in a trance state, believing the walls were a membrane between the human world and something beyond it. The animals on the walls weren't painted onto the stone. They were believed to already be inside it. The act of painting was an act of releasing them. Here's what 51,200 years actually means. Modern humans, people like you, people like Ryan, have existed for roughly 300,000 years, which means for the first 250,000 years of human existence, we left almost almost no permanent record of who we were or what we thought, and then at some point, something changed. Some human crawled into a cave with a rock lamp and a handful of ochre and decided that this moment, this animal, this hunt, this story needed to outlast them. That is the first human urge we can still see with our own eyes. Not the urge to eat, not the urge to survive, not the urge to build shelter. The urge to say, this happened, and I want someone to know. And here's what makes your chest tight when you really sit with it. We still do not know who these people were. We have no names, no graves we can connect to the paintings, no spoken language recorded. These artists are completely anonymous, but their work is still here. Your name, your photographs, every digital trace of your existence. All of it requires technology that needs electricity, servers, maintenance, companies that can go bankrupt. Their paintings made from rock dust and animal fat in a limestone cave have survived 51,000 years without any of that. They needed nothing except the decision to make something that mattered. The oldest story ever told is a painting on a cave wall in Indonesia. 3 small figures, 1 wild pig, and a moment that someone decided was worth preserving forever. We don't know their names. We don't know if they were afraid that night, or cold, or laughing at something. We don't know if they worked alone, or if the whole tribe watched, but we know they went into the dark with a lamp and a handful of color. And we know they left something behind that we are still talking about, 51,000 years later. Maybe that's all any of us are really trying to do. Go into the dark. Make something that lasts and hope, somewhere, somehow, someone sees it. The oldest human art isn't in a museum. It's on the wall of a cave that most people will never see, made by someone whose name we'll never know, who had somehow the exact same need you have right now to leave something of themselves behind. The 3 figures placed something on a wall and hoped someone would respond. Most people just passed by, and Ryan couldn't help thinking, that's not an ancient problem. That's a very modern one. Why nobody responds when somebody needs help. That was explained in my previous video. Make sure to give it a try. And trust me, it's going to make you uncomfortable.